Stay the fuck away. Stay the fuck away. Stay the fuck away. Stay the fuck away. Hey, everybody. Sean Patrick here, and it's Friday night. Cheers. All right. Let's stir some shit up. So on Wednesday in Minden, Ontario, a 73-year-old man became enraged and attacked a grocery store employee who told him that he must wear a mask to enter the store. The OPP were called, the man fled in his car and was later caught up with and shot dead. 2 firearms were recovered from the scene of the shooting. Now at this point we don't know what happened to cause the OPP to shoot him, but since retailers can be fined $1,000 for not making masks mandatory in their establishments, they had to call the police to cover their own asses, even if he didn't attack someone. My virtual hugs and kisses go to the staff at the Minden Value Mart. Minden? Oh, it's about 2.5 hours northeast of Toronto. It's really nice, beautiful. Yeah, Lisa liked it too. Well, except for the lack of cabs. But you should go. It's gorgeous. Just, wear a mask. Okay, so with all the craziness in the world right now, especially around human rights, I thought it would be a good idea to have a look at the Canadian Constitution. It can be a bit of a tough read as it starts with an 11-page table of contents. And the original part was written in 1867, so it's all oldie-timey. But there are some rather cute dated bits, such as how Upper Canada and Lower Canada will now be referred to as Ontario and Quebec. I also like how it was originally just a confederation of Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. Everyone else joined in at various later dates, once we really got the party going. Called the British North America Act by their parliament, it basically, very broadly, sets out the functions of the various branches of government which still had to ask the British Parliament to actually enact anything. In 1982, Pierre Trudeau, got Margaret Thatcher to sign over all rights to UK's big forested summer home, added the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the true Canadian Constitution was born. Aside from that, most amendments have been to clarify governmental roles. So we're going to focus on the Charter here for a minute. Now, I find it odd that a Charter of Rights and Freedoms should start with the phrase, whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Who's God? Or you could say, who's God? Or even, what if I haven't got one? This is especially troubling as Section 1 is just one sentence, and the first freedom listed in Section 2 is freedom of conscience and religion. Now, this is why the separation of church and state is so necessary. If the real intent of this charter is to, among other things, protect your right to religious freedom, it shouldn't stomp all over it in the first sentence. Now, the next problem occurs in the legal rights section. First of all, anyone who's watched an investigative report or documentary about true crime can spot that several of these subsections are constantly ignored. The real problem is actually with the legal system, because the law is only as good as the lawyer you can afford, which makes this section a very sad joke. This is probably why poor people weren't specified in the list of those who aren't to be discriminated against. In the equality rights section, they don't mention genders either. So the government should probably, find a way to slip them in there. Otherwise, it says that all Canadians have equal rights and freedoms. What? No, it doesn't mention imaginary people, man. Sorry, Sandy. So this charter being part of the Constitution means that no law or legislature that has any discriminatory substance can be passed or upheld. Pretty straightforward. Makes sense. But then, I found out that the Charter, being part of the Constitution, only regulates how the government and government employees treat you and each other. It doesn't cover when your boss says, you can't do that, girls are no good at... Or, your interviewer says, well, your credentials look great, but we don't hire... For that, you have to first go to the Canadian Bill of Rights, which was enacted in 1960. This one also starts with that supremacy of God stuff, refers to people only with male pronouns, and as it was written before 1982, they needed the Queen Mum to sign off on it. The rest of it pretty much just looks like the first draft of the Charter of Rights. Well, had enough of documents? Too fucking bad, because there's also the Canadian Human Rights Act of 1985. With its last amendment being just over a year ago, it's the most up-to-date piece I've read this week, and it shows. No supreme overlord, and they added sexual orientation and gender identity or expression to the list. Still, no poor people, though. There is another addition to the list that I found particularly interesting. They also specified that you can't be discriminated against due to marital status. Well, if that's true, then I'd be able to get assistance, but I'm married. Otherwise, it's a pretty long slog through all the ways in which we're not supposed to be discriminated against, and it explains the Canadian Human Rights Commission. So here in Canada, we have a constitution that forbids the creation of discriminatory laws and makes sure they can't be upheld. We also have an act and a bill that promises us equality. It's a sad fucking commentary on society that we need these things in the first place. So why don't we have equality yet? It's because of people's attitudes toward one another. There's no law that ends with except for Aboriginal people, or except for Asian people, or except for black people, or Hispanic people, or girl people, or Jewish people, or any people. We've had these laws for years, which proves that this can't be fixed with legislation. We, as people, need to celebrate our differences, not use them as excuses to treat each other like shit. We need to focus on our commonality, that we are all people, and we all deserve to be treated with respect. Not one of us is better than anyone else. Well, to be honest, I'm pretty amazing. But so are all of you who also aren't going around fucking with people because of how they look, believe, or feel. We need to stop treating equality like Justin treats conflict of interest rules or Donald treats fact. These laws give us rights and freedoms. It's the people who don't adhere to and uphold them that are taking them away from us. That's all for tonight, folks. So stay the fuck away from each other and wash everything. A lot.